Welcome to the Mom and podcast. We're your hosts, Suzanne Kearns
and Missy Stevens. We want to help you through everything that happens in the ellipses, from your professional life to your emotional health.
You're a mom and so much more. Let's figure out what comes next together. Welcome to the Mom and podcast. I'm Suzanne Kearns, mom and writer, LGBTQ and sex ed advocate. And today I am a gutter guard researcher because the excitement never ends at the Kearns house.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I'm Missy Stevens, mom and writer, foster child advocate. And this week I am also living the homeowner dream, Suzanne. I'm cleaning windows and washing pollen off of everything.
Wow. Are you doing it yourself?
A lot of it myself. Yeah. Just a little bit at a time.
I think we have the windows that technically we're supposed to be able to like flip inside so you don't have to like go up to the second floor. But we have this really amazing lady called Gwendolyn. It's like she's Gwendolyn, but she turned it into Gwindo. And I love her. So
I may need to call Gwendolyn.
Well, she only does it when we're selling a house, but
someday
I'll clean a house that I'm going to live in. But this week we are so excited to have Sarah Hart Unger on the show. And Sarah really makes her ellipses count. So she's a doctor, a pediatric endocrinologist to be specific, mom of 3, a blogger who actually writes on a daily basis. We're going to talk about that. Blows my mind. And has not only one, but 2 podcasts. And yeah, you can find her blogging literally daily at the Shoebox, SHUBOX.com, and on her podcast, Best Laid Plans. And also she does a podcast with Laura Vanderkam, who we had on for episode 105, who helped us get our acts together with time tracking. Even though she said not to be filled with shame, I'm filled with shame by what came out of those. But we are so excited to have Sarah here. So welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, we are really glad you're here, and we learned a little bit about you and all the amazing things you do in your bio, but we were wondering if you could give us a Sarah 101, where you just talk about where your career started and any pivots that led to where you are today.
Sure. So, I guess I'm going to start with the blog. So I'm a physician, and I started writing the blog, which was not called the Shoebox at the time. It had a really lame name called like Lost and All Alone, because I was 24 at the time.
I used to be the Dusty Parachute. You don't need to explain. It's fine.
I used to be Wonder Friend. Yeah.
And I wrote in that through most of finishing med school, all through residency and fellowship, and started work as a full-time pediatric endocrinologist in my current home in South Florida. But there was like something missing in my career. I was doing it full-time. Then I think I was doing it at like 80% time, because at that point I had my second kid. By the way, somewhere in there, I had my first kid in 2012. I had a lot of struggles to get pregnant, so I kind of learned in the infertility space for a little while. Then had my second, went part-time, but I still just like thought there was something missing. So I ended up going into residency education. And so I spent part of my career at that point actually building a residency program from scratch. I was the associate program director for a while. Then I was a program director for a while. I've had like all these iterations. And then COVID happened. I kind of had like an inner reckoning with like what I really wanted to do. And I love working with residents, but I did not love feeling like I had to please people in like all different sides and manage different people's expectations, which is what a kind of mid-level leadership position is. And I decided, you know what? Let me try to like take this podcast thing that I've really been doing in some form or other for like years at this point and make it part of my like actual job, step down from the leadership part, keep the clinical part. And so for the last 6 months, I have been 60% time all clinical. So on Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, I see patients. I had my third kid somewhere in there. Sorry, I didn't mean to gloss over her, but they're now 5, 9, and 11. And then I do the podcasting and blogging work kind of like the rest of the time. And it is such a fun combination, and I'm really, really loving it. I also am a runner. So I guess you can add that in my ... I used to run marathons, but my last one was in 2009. However, I've been like bitten by that bug again, and I'm finding my old marathon desiring self. So
oh boy,
I feel like that's a big part of my identity these days too, as well. And sometimes I even blog about it. But yeah, all this stuff mixed up. I feel like my life is a weird mishmash, but it is a lot of fun.
Oh, it sounds amazing. And I should have had my ... be that I survived the Cap 10K. I never gave my update. I had run a half marathon in February,
February, I
had
think.
not
Yes.
run since then, and then had the Cap 10K last week, no, 2 weekends ago. And I've had
Like, hadn't
nightmares.
run, like,
Had not
period.
run, had
Oh my
not
goodness.
run.
Mhm.
Barely even had gone for extensive walks. And I've had dreams like this before where it's like the next day you're like, "Oh, I have to run the half marathon. Oh no, I haven't done anything." And I did it. I lived the nightmare of just like, well, I guess just gonna see what
Yeah.
happens to my body. And I survived. It was not pretty, but I had a better pace
Amazing.
than the half marathon though, which made me kind of sad. But yes,
That's crazy.
yeah, running does, when I am actually actively training, can become part of your identity and that ...
Mhm.
especially if you're doing it on a regular basis. But
Yeah.
okay, so we had Laura on a couple months ago, and she really got us into the time tracking and thinking about time management. And I know that obviously, since you share a podcast with her, you're into that too. So I want to talk about how you manage that time then around the podcast, around the running, around the family. And even though your job is 60%, we all know what a woman's 60% is. That's like,
It's 110.
yeah, you're
Yeah.
you're doing
I'm gonna push back at that
are,
slightly
are
and
you doing
say
good?
that I have become pretty passionate on if I'm signing up for 60%, which means my paycheck is 60%, I'm gonna be
Yes.
100% there on the days that I'm there, but on the days that I'm not there, I'm 0%. And thankfully, I'm in a profession where that does work. I have others, covering on those days, and I'm largely
Hmm.
outpatient anyway, and most questions can wait one day. And that's actually why I chose Monday, Wednesday, Friday rather than like compressing the days. I didn't want people, like, if something happened on Wednesday, I didn't want someone to have to wait all the way until the next Monday to hear from me,
Right.
right? But
Yes.
I do believe that we should try to work on if we've chosen to go part-time, making sure that I think that's really, really important. I don't think part-time is for everyone, and I think full-time can be awesome. And in that case, though, I think it's important to make sure that you're doing 100% and not 120% because you
Yes.
need time left for yourself. So I am not an avid time tracker. I'm actually doing it right now. I try to do it like for a week or two every quintile, and I can talk about what I consider a quintile, but
Oh,
basically I
yes,
divide the
please
year into
do.
5
Yeah.
pieces, and, like,
Oh.
this year I was like, "Okay, every quintile, I wanna try to track my time for, like, a week or 2 just to get my bearings," but I do not, like Laura, have a decade-long streak of accounting for every minute because I find it pretty difficult. I guess I just don't get that granular, and sometimes, I mean, you can just get lost in stuff, and you're like, "I don't know what happened." I mean, I think that's happens the worst when you're engaging in a lot of mindless screen time, and I've cut a lot of that
Yeah.
out, so
Mhm.
that's
Yeah.
become a lot better, but still, there's, like, time with your kids or just time you're, like, doing stuff that's social, and I don't it's hard to, like, exactly quantify it sometimes. I mean, it's
Yeah.
doable, but I don't enjoy doing it all the time, so I spot check my time. What I do a lot of, and I'm very passionate about, is planning my time. So, every single day, I start the day with a plan, and I have that plan by looking at what I have going on that week, looking at what I have this also requires planning, but thought about what I might do that week and then putting those things together with my emotional state and my energy and like setting aside, okay, well, then what is today actually going to contain? Making a
Mhm.
realistic to do list, which is something that a lot of people struggle with, but I try to
Uh-huh.
help them learn how to not put 75 things on a daily to do and then,
Guilty.
kind of write out my schedule for the day. I love to, like, mark off little habits throughout the day. It doesn't mean that I'm 100% on doing them every day, but I like to set little goals for myself, and I actually love to plan on paper. So, like, each day as I decide on my list and I decide on my schedule, I kinda make little boxes for my habits, and then I go about it always feel not always, but generally feeling like, I don't know, each day I have on my plate what is manageable because I've decided what I'm going to put there. I feel like I am very aware of where the more free time buckets are.
Mhm.
And I think the one time I still struggle with sometimes is evenings just because I think I run out of energy. But I actually
Mm.
think in some ways, by being aware of this, I learned to respect my own rhythms a little better anyway. And like, I wouldn't plan to do a bunch of work at 8 p.m. because I know it wouldn't end well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, so okay, so your habit
Oh,
tracker. I've seen a few, and actually I've tried to customize one for myself that was like a It's like a sheet. It just has like 30 of whatever the habits you are, and you can go boom, 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 boom. Or are you picking during the morning, being like, okay, I know where I am today, and I know I'm not going to do X, Y, Z of those habits. So do you cherry pick then and then put them on your daily planner from that
Okay.
list?
So there are so many different ways to track habits, and there is no one right way.
Mm.
Yes, some people love to have like a yearly grid. In fact, one of the planners that I love, the Hobonichi, has this cool annual planning page where you could put like 10 habits and put like a dot for each habit like every single day. And that's super cool. But I don't do that at all. I tend to like prefer to almost feeling like I'm starting fresh every day. If I
Mhm.
felt like I was
Mhm.
filling in a list, if I had 2 days that were bad, I'd be like, oh God, why am I doing this? Like,
Oh, what's that one Jess Leahy has?
oh,
Mm.
she might have like a write every day or like
It's like a glorious it might be wooden or something, and you
cool.
boop the button for each of the days. I'll have to get a picture of it. It's really intense, but it is.
Oh.
You pick the one habit you're gonna do, and then you boop it every day.
That is super cool,
Ah.
but that doesn't fit my sensibilities.
Yeah.
Right.
I actually just like to write this little rectangle on my daily page, and there's a little I write MOR, a little music note, and a D, and those stand for meditate, go outside, read, listen to some kind of music, and do Duolingo. I don't know why, but currently I'm sure they'll
Oh,
change. That's actually been like my 5 like habits on the habit tracker for a long time. But at some point, I'm sure I'll subtract something or add something or whatever. I always
Yeah.
kind of think about that at the start of each year. Do I still want to include this? I also work out, so I usually have like a little spot for like what my run or exercise is for the day. But that's like separate from my little mini habits, and I just do it for the day. I've gone through different planners where I'm like, oh, I'm gonna track this long term, but I don't feel like I need that. I would rather just have every day be an opportunity to, like, see how many of those I can get, and then the next day
Mhm.
I get to start over again and see how many of them I can get.
oh,
For me, it just works better that way.
I love
Oh,
And I
that.
don't
Just having the
keep
little
it. Like, I don't ever
acronym.
add it up and say, like, "I did it 272 times." Like, I don't
Mhm.
care.
it's just a reminder.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, you talked
Oh.
about I wanna hear about the quintiles. I assume you reevaluate your goals and priorities, each of those quintiles. So, like, how do you go about figuring out what it's going to be when you have so many things you're doing every day?
So I almost wish I could, like, share screen right now, but that probably wouldn't work, and I could share my nested goals. Okay, let me talk about those 2 things separately. If I was gonna trademark one thing, I don't actually know how to trademark anything, but if I did, it would be quintiles because I did kinda make it up and I see people using it and I'm like, "They didn't even
That's
put my
mine.
name on it." I'm just kidding.
Yes, you should.
No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead and use it. But I divide the year into 5 because the traditional quarters did not make sense to me. I have school-age children. I have a 5-year-old, a 9-year-old, and an 11-year-old, so I'm gonna be in the
Mhm.
school age phase for, like, forever, basically.
Mhm.
And so, going from January to April, April to July, like, what's July? In the middle of our summer. I live in South Florida, so,
Oh,
like,
right.
summer starts, like, basically in May. So I don't know. So I decided it made more sense to do, like, January 1st has to be a cut point because I love January 1st, and it's just I like it. I know it's
Yeah.
arbitrary, but I like it. So January
Yeah.
1st to spring break till the end of the school year, all of summer, the beginning of school until November 1st. Why November 1st? Because I feel November and December feel kind of special.
Mhm.
Yes.
Like they have Thanksgiving, they have holidays, there's so many celebrations, and you're doing lots and lots of reflecting until the next like thinking about the next year. I call
Yes.
it reflection season. So I can't some people are like, well, couldn't quintile 4 just be like school to the end of the year, but, like, our school starts in mid-August, so that would make that quintile really long, and
Really
also I
long.
just feel like
Yeah.
that fall, winter is set apart. So those are my 5 quintiles, and the way I approach goals actually, I guess I take it back. If I was gonna trademark 2 things, it'd be that and then what I call the nested goal system, which is that basically there you want to have, like, hierarchies of goals in your life. Here's what I don't recommend doing: sitting down on January 1st and being like, "Here's my quintile 1 goals, here's my quintile 2 goals, here" no, 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 no. You're gonna make a list of annual goals and things you really want to prioritize for that year. Like things you're excited about, things you want to move forward in your career. And it's not going to get like super, super specific. I mean, there may be some specific things you want to do, but like thinking about the big things that at the end of the year you'd be really happy to get done. But then as you're going into a new quintile, and yes, the beginning of the quintile is also the beginning of a quintile is the beginning of the year, but like let's think about quintile 2, you're going into the spring quintile, you go back to that year list and you go, okay, now I'm going to make my quintile 2 goals because now I see what we have going on the next few months. I see what I feel like, but I have this menu of things that I thought were important for this year. What belongs? What should I pull from this like bigger bowl into this smaller bowl? And like I think of it as like nested, kind of like Russian nesting
Mhm.
dolls or something like that. Not where I came up with that, but like,
Yeah.
okay, what am I going to pull into those quintile goals? And then actually you can do that kind of level by level. So when the month starts, let's say it's May, which it is almost May as we're recording this. I don't know when it's airing. For me, that's like the second month of quintile 2. I'm like, okay, what do I want to get done in May? Well, I can look back at the goals I made for the quintile. Which of these kind of fit in this incredibly busy month of May? Probably like one thing, this thing,
Yes.
and et cetera, et cetera. And you can even do that down to the week and down to the day. And I do have like a weekly planning session where I look at what I wanted to do that month. I look at what's on the schedule for this week. I kind of think of the flavor of where we are in the year and how I feel. Like if I'm sick, I'm not going to plan a bunch of things. And I think about what I want to do that week. And that is how I would decide what I want to do each day. Obviously, lots of stuff just gets plopped on the calendar. That's what I call like the hard landscape. You kind of have to work
Mhm.
around that when you're working
Right.
towards the more nebulous goals. But it's combining of both of them that allow you to get done what needs to get done, but also make sure you're incorporating those things that you like want to do to move those big things forward. So that is my, in a nutshell, the goal setting system that I use.
I love that, getting away from the regular schedule. We call our new year like when school starts. That's our new year because it
Yeah.
really is. It's like January 1st is special in the sense that, the year is starting, but for most moms with kids who are in school, like
Yeah.
your new year,
August.
yeah, it's
Quintile
in
4,
August.
it's a big
Yeah.
one. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. This is a little bit of a bunny trail aside, but while I was listening to you talk, I was thinking you were talking about that hardscape of things that just get plopped on the calendar. What happens when things just come at you? And I'm thinking about that particularly today because a couple things popped up in my life today and I'm like, I really have to take care of that right now. It's not something I could even felt like I could say, no, that's not on my schedule today. That was not on my list today. But then it messed up like the whole rest of my day. So what do you do? Do you have a method for that or do you just roll with it?
Well, 2 things. When did you find out about those things? This morning?
Yeah.
Like, okay, so it would have been
Yeah.
after you planned out what you were gonna do in a day.
Mhm.
Yeah, then you gotta
Mhm.
triage. I mean, listen, I got kids, they get sick, stuff happens at work, like
Mhm.
somebody, shows up at 4:59 with like a sick kid and I'm like, "Oh my god, I was supposed to go home." Like, so stuff is gonna happen.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
I also think like we have to, this is a list that we're hoping to get done. It probably shouldn't have like
Mm,
20 things on it. It's going to have a few things. And hopefully, none of the things were so emergent that they couldn't wait till the next day. So,
right.
hopefully, stuff is not popping up like crazy stuff every single day. If it is, you might want to look at whether there are some areas in your life where could you predict some of these things, like, by doing a weekly calendar audit, would let things be surprising. Now, I was late to this interview. I messed up your day today. So, sometimes stuff is just going to happen. And I'm so sorry about that. But, just some things you can't control like that. Like,
Right.
but you can know, sometimes podcast guests are unpredictable. So, like, if I hadn't shown today, nice to have some idea in the hopper to like use for next week's episode, etc. So, like, some things you can kind
Right.
of get ahead of by thinking about what might go wrong. There's a limit to that. You don't want to go crazy thinking of worst case scenario of everything. But also just being kind to yourself when stuff happens. If there's a house emergency, you kind of think about like, okay, those things are not going to happen. But it looks like, next Tuesday looks okay. So let me actually make a note and earmark and see if I can keep next Tuesday morning clear so I can catch up on those things.
Mm.
That
Right.
might be a way that you handle it.
I think it's a really good reminder to just be kind to
Yes.
yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
Stuff is going to happen. 100%.
Right.
Yes, and you're very, very human. Well, now, okay, so speaking of keeping ourselves organized, your solo podcast, Best Laid Plans, is like
Love it.
so our happy place.
Mhm.
Like, I actually, you should get commission for, is it jet pens or whatever? I think you led me to that dark, it's a dark,
Mhm.
cheerful place. It's dark because it's
Yes.
where all my money goes, but it's my happy place for everything, planners, pens, highlighters, everything. But oh, I've talked about this on the podcast before, but I am in love with my campus. It's this spiral notebook. And I think you've talked about this on your podcast too,
Yes,
where
that's by
you,
Kokuyo, and the
y-
rings open up, right? They're like the little
yes,
opening
Yeah.
rings. That's beautiful. I
because
think I
Yes.
have a Maruman one that's very similar, but my daughter wants the campus one, and I'm super into it.
I am so into it because after doing so many different planners that just weren't working for me, and it's what I realized what I wanted was just a spiral notebook. That's what I used to use for work, and I used to have
Mhm.
like hundreds of them by the end of the year. But that was how I was used to doing things. I like things that can flop over, can be
Mhm.
shoved in a bag, but I also like the rearrangeability of things, which you can't obviously do with most spiral notebooks. So I love, 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 love this thing, which is where I found that there. And then I also just ordered a 5 pack of the, what did you just say your favorite? You lost one of your pens the other day.
Oh, the Pilot,
Oh,
juice
God, the
ups.
best.
Yes. I just
I
ordered the
love
5-pack, and it's being delivered today, and I'm
Yeah,
hoping
we had,
that's
like, a
gonna be
household
life-changing.
crisis when I lost my only Pilot juice up. Now they're, like, $3, but it was, like I never found it, by the way. Still don't
Oh,
know where it went.
no.
But, now I also bought myself, like, a 5 or 6 pack or something, so I feel really good now. I love
Yes.
Yeah, I
those.
hide them, and the problem is occasionally I hide them for myself, but I hide them where nobody is going to look, because if they see a pin, they'll take a pin. So,
Yes. Well,
my
I'm
favorite pins are
notorious for
secret.
stealing pens anyway from restaurants. Oh my gosh, every
Ugh.
time we go to my son's physical therapist, he grabs one of the pens. It's become a joke now, that poor woman. Oh, but anyway, okay. So you have seen and you are familiar with probably every pen, every planner, everything available. And I'm sure it probably even changes from season to season, quintile to quintile, about what is going to meet your needs. But if you were going to be stranded on a desert island with only one pen and only one notebook right now, what would it be?
Ugh, that is hard.
Favorite
Pick your
child.
favorite
Well,
child.
Yeah.
only one pen would probably be the Pilot Juice Up in 0.4 with black ink, with the runner-up being the Pentel Energel Clena 0.4. One notebook, that is rough, so not even like wow. Can I have a planner in a notebook? I don't
Yes,
know.
you can bring a planner and a notebook.
Awesome. Okay, well, then my planner would be some kind of vertical weekly planner, maybe a hemlock and oak, maybe the sterling ink, one of those. Okay. And then my notebook would be what I'm currently using as my notebook, which is actually a Stology notebook that is just a plain grid paper with a very subtle timeline down the left. And I'm currently loving it because it can be just a blank page as a journal. It can be kind of turned into a daily planning page. I like the paper actually more than the Hobonichi paper. It's
Oh.
Ooh.
still, yeah, I know. It's still very thin and light, so there's a little bit of, like, show through, but not bleed through, but, like, show through,
Mhm.
um,
Mhm.
but it's not as smudgy, like, it absorbs a little bit better, and, like, if
Uh-huh.
you listen to Best Laid Plans, my pet peeves, I'm a left-hander, I drag my hand down the
Yep.
page, and I really don't like an ugly smudged page, so the fact that I can use gel pens on this, like, fine Japanese paper without messing it up, ugh, I love it. It feels so great with that pen as well, and it works really well with mild liners, just a great paper, and very,
Oh, I can
like, affordable. You can even get them on Amazon if you don't
Yeah.
wanna use jet pens.
And I just found,
Oh
as
my
I was looking
gosh.
for this spiral notebook, it's kind of a toy store. It's a very much like a Japanese theme store. So very like they have the
Mhm.
plushes and the toys and all kinds of stuff, but they
Yeah.
also have a stationery section. I know. And it's like less than a mile from my house. It's
Mhm.
so dangerous every time I drive by. I'm like, "Ooh, I'm gonna go in there."
You wanna go
Okay.
in?
When you're talking about horizontal planner, just for anybody who's listening on the
Vertical.
podcast, I'm sorry, vertical. So what does that look like if you're explaining
Yeah,
to
I
a
prefer for
listener?
my weekly layout. Now there's if you use an electronic calendar, like
Mhm.
Google Calendar, and that is your source of truth for like what's happening in your life, great. You might not need a vertical layout, but for me, I actually have my paper be my source of truth. So I really like to be able to like see the week laid out so I can kind of see the spaces. And I feel like vertical is the best for that, usually with some kind of hourly markings along the side,
Yeah.
almost like I can turn it into a paper Google Calendar.
Got it.
Best even if there's extra space in addition to the hours where I can put some weekly things. So often if the hours go all the way to midnight, I can repurpose those evening hours when I'd be asleep anyway and put like the kids'
Uh,
activities, what we're making for dinner. I kind of put them in their own horizontal row. I've been planning with that kind of a weekly layout for a long time, and I don't see that changing unless I ever move to more electronic, but I doubt it.
So
So yeah, I
have
like
do you have a Google Calendar at all? Because that's how my husband
I
and I
mean
like do
I have it.
dibs on time. Like if we want to
right.
do a book club or he goes to one of his writer groups or whatever, like we got to do dibs on the Google Calendar to whoever gets that night. And so, how do you
Yeah,
do that
that's how
then
we
from a
do
family
family
standpoint?
share.
Hmm.
So my husband uses a Google Calendar, sort of. I mean, yeah, I don't know how much he actually references it, but he has it. And so if there's an activity that I think he needs to know about in the evening, I do make I have it. And so I'll send him and I'll invite him. But
Got it.
so I use Google Calendar and like generally I don't mess up the invites like I did today. I'm like reasonably good at it. But my paper calendar is my source of truth. So, how do you know about an event that goes through Google Calendar? Well, you get emailed about it. And so, in my
Yeah.
mind, I'm not like saying yes to anything until I've looked at that email and I do clear my email out to inbox zero. So, I'm not going to miss anything that I'm getting
Oh my
invited to.
God.
and write it into my paper calendar. It sounds laborious. It is fully not. I am a very efficient.
I need to look at my inbox right now.
Don't look. Don't look.
Let me see here.
I'm an inbox 0 girl too. If there's a red number, it makes my heart hurt.
I
Like, I
think
can't
mine's
take it.
around 10,697.
Unread?
Well, you know what you're allowed to do when you have that many is you're allowed to
Delete.
just keep the first 2 pages and just archive everything else, and you'll be fine.
Oh my gosh. Because I
Yeah,
keep
my
the
chest
weirdest
is a little
things.
tight right now, Suzanne.
But I keep it as a diary. Like I was just writing a letter where I had to refer back to, well, when did I start on the board of Carrying Hope? And so I just go search for Carrying Hope, and
I can also search for every single email. It just goes into archives. It's
Yeah,
not
they're
gone.
just gone.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, that's what I do with them too.
Now I
Just
feel
put 'em
shame
away.
again. No,
So I have the dumbest question. I know there's not supposed to be any dumb questions, but this is dumb, but I'm fixated on it. And maybe there's somebody else out there who feels like I do. So when my calendars are on paper, the issue that I have run into is things change and you have to move things and things pop up and then it gets messy. And I can't handle it when it's messy. So how do you handle that? What's your strategy?
You're going to laugh. Okay, so when that happened to an extreme degree, like 2020, I was like,
Yeah.
I'm getting a planner. I cannot look at all these things crossed off. This is so depressing. Like everything is crossed off. Literally, another week, another fun thing crossed off. Like I couldn't. I got a brand new fresh planner, and I do actually sometimes replace. I would say I switch planners every few months, so that helps a little bit.
Yes,
That is my own personal quirk. I don't necessarily recommend that. But the other thing I do is I'll use a sticky note, or I'll just put a line through something. I'll put a sticker on top and write the new thing. I'm not afraid to just put an X and put it like a triangle. That means like changed. So, and you use frictions. I don't love.
I have the frictions.
Well, I don't love the writing of, but I sure love the way you can erase them. I do love that.
For me, it's not worth the trade-off in writing, which is why, again, pilot juice up. But I get the appeal. I do. And in fact, it might be nice to have those to use just for things that I'm not sure about. But my current practice is if something's a little tentative, I have tiny little cute sticky notes from Jet Pens. So I just write on the sticky note, put the sticky note in the planner. They don't fall out. And then if it doesn't happen, rip it off.
Gone. What you said that frees me more than anything that has ever freed me before is that this is like a life-changing moment I'm having here. You get a new planner. I get so hung up. So I've bought this planner. I'm going to use it for the year. It's going to be my record of 2023. And then it doesn't go well and it gets messy and I'm upset. I'm going to get a new planner. Like
planners. I mean, some of them are not cheap. Some of them, like a really luxe planner, might be $60 or even like $80 for Incondron. But there are also plenty of excellent planners to be had underneath the $20 price point, which is like the price of lunch these days. I mean, not really, but almost. So
sometimes
if it's something you look at every day and it's bothering you, I say it's worth moving on.
Yes.
And I don't change daily because that would be a total pain. But I've already changed. What is it? We're headed into May. I'm on my second planner, 2023. That's okay. My second weekly planner.
Yeah, I feel like I turned my planners into some type of archaeology thing where same thing where I wanted to look up in my email. I have planners from decades ago where I still have them. Like, do you throw them away? Do you just toss them?
I do. I keep a few. So I like to be able to say like, oh, look, I have like my planner for like when I had my first baby and I was tracking pumping. Like I almost feel like one every 5 to 10 years is like the sweet spot. But I go through a lot of them and I am a thrower outer in general. So I just recycle a lot of my planners, which I know it's like sort of sacrilege, but it's also freeing, right? Because then it's also like, these are to be used and enjoyed while I have them. I'm not making a craft. Like it's okay if I had to cross everything off because either I can move on or I can just turn the page and I don't need to keep it. And it's not permanent. It's transient.
That's true. Well, I've been enjoying customizing because I get the paper then that goes with my campus, and then you can make whatever you want in Canva. And then you just print them out and you just shove them in there. So I have fully customized, and I even have it built in with my little time tracker. Like, yes.
That's so fun.
Awesome.
That's what I think I'm doing next.
Are you printing it onto like the quality paper, like Kokuyo paper? Like,
yes.
And it prints well on there?
Yeah, it prints really nicely.
Amazing. And I love that. I hadn't heard of that.
Oh, yeah. I've got it all set up in the Canva so that, it's offset on each side to accommodate the spiral. And yes. And then if I don't like the format, I just take those pages out and I start fresh.
Make a new one.
Yes, I that's why I love this thing. It's very accommodating to my whims and my failures.
I'm into that. You have to send me a picture of your
I
template.
I
I think
will. I will.
if we can figure out how to share your template, and if you're willing to do that, we should put that like in show notes and in our group.
I would be happy to. And then you all have to go buy this really expensive B5 size spiral notebook to make it work.
I think that's what I'm buying next because my current planner is not working
Perfect.
for me.
It's not? You
It's
had such high
not.
hopes.
I thought it was going to change my life, but turns out you can't. Like I'm in charge of that, right? Like the planner can't do that. But it's too heavy is really the problem with it. It's beautiful and
What are you
it's
using?
great.
Which one is it?
I don't want to say.
Oh, okay.
It's a Dutch and Deckel, and it's
Oh, I haven't heard of that.
beautiful. And you can kind of customize when you order it, and it's the most lovely book, and it sits on my desk, on my blotter on my desk, and it looks beautiful, but it weighs a lot, and so I don't carry it around with me, and that's the problem.
Mm.
Form over function. It's a hard
Yep.
battle.
Yes.
Yep. So I've thought I might leave it on my desk and still use it to do some planning, but I need the thing that I carry with me.
Huh. Okay.
So think about that. If you order Dutch and Deckel, you don't have to order them by the year, which is what I did. You can order for a few months at a time or even less maybe, and then they don't weigh 1,000 pounds. So think about that.
As soon as we're off, I'm Googling them. They sound fascinating.
Again, the spiral
Yeah, it's
notebook. I
so
mean,
lovely.
yeah. I think that's part of it is just because we're never sure exactly what we're going to want. And I think every single planner we've ever bought, we have been 100% sure was going to like change our life.
Yeah.
But to
Oh,
Missy's
yeah.
point, I think there's a lot more things we need to work through.
An
in
inanimate
ourselves.
clump of paper cannot change me.
I mean, a
Fix
planner can
me.
be a tool when you feel like you're starting fresh. It can give you a
Yes.
little bit of energy. It's not going to last for months and months on end, especially if it's not a good fit
No.
or you're trying to like make it work when it doesn't really. And I know that's why I sometimes like to switch. Somebody asked me like to design my dream planner, and I had so much fun like thinking about what I would include if I was like starting from scratch. And one thing that I thought would be cool would be like a little booklet for the daily part that you could like throw out each quintile, like start
Mm.
fresh.
Yes.
Mhm.
Just build in that element so that you get to start something new every few months and kind of have that fresh, clean energy, even if you're not replacing the
Yeah.
whole thing.
Yes.
Which you can kind of do with yours, Suzanne. You could kind of do that.
I know, and I have
Yeah.
a million times. I have
Yeah.
reformatted this like a bunch of different times, and I really do think I'm getting there. I'm going to patent it as soon as I get there. But then again, it is so individual, and I do think it is. It's just a process of learning what works for you and maybe trying. You know what I have also found? Get on one of those buy nothing groups, the Facebook groups in your
Oh,
neighborhood or whatever, because towards about March, there seems to be a lot of people who are deciding that theirs did not work for them. Arrange like a neighborhood swap. Like, okay, everybody one street to the left. Let's exchange planners, see if the next one works. But another thing, talk about really great habits and being organized. The fact that you are committed to a daily writing practice, like,
Mhm.
is just so epic to me. I think I've only met one other writer, and we've been in the blogging community for going on a decade now. And I think everybody's like, oh, if I get one once a month, mine's probably once a year. I cannot even imagine. I can't remember the last time I wrote something on my blog. So
I
is that
really
something
want to
that
get back
you
to it.
consciously set out and like, this is a goal, I'm going to do this every day? Or is it something that just helps you shake the dust off? Like, what is that?
I mean, first, I do miss days sometimes. So it's not like I have like an unbroken. My blog has been around since 2004. Wouldn't it be great if I had like an
Wow.
unbroken 20-year streak? I do
Oh my
not.
gosh.
Amazing.
100% I do not. Um, but I love writing. I love writing a post. I process things. I think about things. I never, no, not never. Now I'm going to jinx myself, but I almost never sit down and I'm like, I don't have anything to say. I don't plan any of my posts in advance. The only thing I can say I do is that I do always post my workouts lately on Sunday, like what my runs were that week.
Mhm.
And I tend to do something called 5 on a Friday, but then the contents of 5 on a Friday are like any 5 random things. So it's not even like that's anything. And
Yeah.
otherwise, I just write whatever is in my head. And it's very interesting. Like every once in a while, I'll have some like passionate, impassioned thing that just like comes out and I had no plan to do it. And it took me 20 minutes. And then I either get like 100, well, not 100, but like a whole bunch of supportive content comments, or back in the COVID years, I might write something and get a lot of people were in mood back then.
People were in moods.
And it's funny because
Yeah.
I'm like, but I just sat down and for 15 minutes to write this. Like I wasn't, I'm not like
I was
writing a
just
journal
thinking.
article. I'm
Yeah.
Yes.
thinking, I'm processing.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And so I just love doing it. Obviously, I wouldn't do it if I didn't love doing it. I don't get much out of the blog. Like, I mean, I have ads on my site. Actually, I have more ads than I want to have. All of a sudden, they like doubled, and I don't understand what happened, but trying to figure it out.
Huh.
But it's not like the blog is like a lucrative venture. It's
Right.
just I love doing it. I love the audience. I love the fact that some people have been reading my writing for like so many years. I mean, that's just cool and amazing. And
Yes.
I don't know if I'll ever stop writing. Like, I might be writing when I'm 80.
I'm so
I think
glad
it's
you do.
amazing.
And I do think actually we're seeing a move back because Facebook took that away. Well, didn't take it away. We gave it to Facebook. And that, okay, the things that we used to write over here, these blog posts about, now we're doing either long form Facebook or sharing pictures there,
Yes.
whatever the case may be. They're monetizing that. They're taking our stuff. And I just, part of me, if I ever have like a uninterrupted month, I just want to go back through Facebook and like take every single post and like own it, like take that
Yes.
back.
I
I
get
guess
it.
there's no better time than today.
I never felt like I was soul bearing on. I mean, I don't know. I never used social media in that way. And even when I tried to, like, I'd make a page, I'd like never go to it. Like, I have always loved
Right.
going to my own thing. And I did quit Facebook in 2016. I quit Instagram in 2021. Two of the best decisions I've ever made. I'm never joining another social media. I mean, the closest thing I get to social media is Strava, which is like a running app, and it
Oh yeah.
almost feels too much like social media to me.
Oh, wow.
But I have mine set to like, I don't follow that many people, and I have mine set to private, so it's not crazy.
Do
See,
you have a thing that is like a guilty pleasure time suck that I think for a lot of us is social media? Like, do you have a thing?
I have a thing that I don't like that I do, which is if I get really stressed, I like just start checking stuff. Like I'll just check email and I'll check WhatsApp and I'll check email again and then I'll check my text and then I'll text somebody and then I'll
Mm,
check my email. Like, so I feel like that's the only thing left. And every once in a while I go to Reddit. Like I don't really post ever, but I'll like
right.
look at the threads and mostly the threads I look at are like stationery related. And I don't really find it to be terrible, but then
No.
I don't know. It sort of has some of the same compare. What I like better about Reddit is nobody's trying to be a Reddit star. So people are not like selling
Right.
themselves in the way that
Right.
everyone started to on
mm-hmm.
Instagram. So I do like that it's like more back in the heyday of like looking at a Prodigy bulletin board or something like that. Okay, I just dated
Yeah.
myself so bad. I was born in 1980. That was my
Yeah.
first
That's
exposure to the internet in like the late 80s or early 90s or whatever. But I still don't love when I do it, so I actually try really hard not to do it. I look at I keep my screen time widget on my front of my phone. I forget what blog I learned that from. Maybe Grateful K. I
Ooh.
forget, but I was like,
mm-hmm.
great idea. And I try to keep it under like 100 minutes a day, which sounds like a lot, but a lot of it's just like, let's check the weather. Let's pull up my text. Okay, I
Yes.
got a WhatsApp or like I'm using Google Maps. So it's actually not a lot of like actual scrolling
Mm-hmm.
time or anything.
Right.
Yeah, that's really what's left. Hopefully, I can get rid of that.
Yeah, I mean, it all is that little dopamine hit
It
of like, whoa,
is.
did something show up? Ooh, did something show up?
Yeah,
I
that's the
know.
checking. It's such a slot machine. It's like,
Yes.
Yes.
ooh, I'm in a bad mood. And 3 days ago, I got a really cool email. So let's see if one might magically pop up.
You know what? I was thinking
How
about
about
that.
now?
I was thinking about that so much yesterday that I actually had a dream that I won a slot machine, and it was really exciting. But it all came out in nickels, and it was like $1,000.
All came
I
out in
mean, I
nickels. That's
wouldn't
a
turn
really
down
specific dream.
$1,000 in nickels.
It was just a lot of
A lot of
buckets.
Yes.
nickels. Yeah.
A lot of buckets. They can go to the bank just like anything else.
Oh my gosh. Oh, I could seriously talk to you for a week about all the
Yes.
things that would get my life organized. And I'm sure a lot of our listeners could do. And I love the fact that, bringing humanity back to things. The fact you're doing the blog posts, the fact that social media is not like your place where you're connecting with people, and taking that to the extreme and doing your Best Laid Plans Academy, where you actually get to see people and their actual
Yes.
faces in human contact.
Yeah.
Can
Tell
you
us
tell
about
us a
that.
little bit about that?
Well, you say human contact. So I have two things that I'm doing. So I'm doing Best Laid Plans Academy, which is I'm now like midway through my second round of it. And it's basically I don't want to say lecture, but like 7 meeting series where we go through all the different horizons of planning from annual to daily and then all the stuff in between. And it's kind of like classroom size, and I teach it, but then people also ask questions. And then there's a lot of like interactive time. Like I'll say, like, okay, in the next 5 minutes, I want you to identify where all your inboxes are so that we can like then delve into like whatever. So I'm trying to take people from like, I'm not sure I like my system to, okay, I have a really good system that I'm confident in. I know where my goals are. I feel like I've had a thoughtful structure to how I plan my time. So that's my goal at
Yeah.
the end of Best Laid Plans Academy. Think I'm doing pretty well. It's been really, really fun. It's very interactive and people enjoy the accountability and like supportive atmosphere. So that's been great. I've done 2 rounds. I'm not sure when I think I'm gonna open my third round up probably like quintile 4. So like back to school,
Okay.
kind of like
All
that time
right.
frame. But I
Perfect.
only open those up like one at a time. And then I decided that with all this Zooming, that what was missing from my life was like live. Like I wanted to meet people and see them. And I was like, this is the worst business decision ever, but I'm going to do a live retreat. So I booked a hotel and we're doing it. And so there's Best Laid Plans Live is in November in Fort Lauderdale. You can get information on my website if you want. And I'm going to take people through like planning their next year. So it's 2 nights. And like you'll come and we'll have like some fun sessions. Like, well, the first night's like a social kind of like happy hour type party. And then during the day, I'm going to actually take you through it. There can be like a special workbook and you're going to get your own little notebook and then talk about like your priorities for the next year. And I'll just like help people will plan together. So I am so, so excited for that. And it's not full, but it's getting there. And yeah, so if you're interested, check it out. And it's like a crazy idea because
It's a great
I'm
idea.
learning like it's a lot riskier and harder to put something together in person than it is on Zoom. Zoom, there's like all these structures and like apps almost, but when you're doing
Mhm.
something live, like I don't know, it's harder. But
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be so fun, and I hope it
It's
Oh,
goes
going to
well,
be
and I can do
amazing.
more.
I think it's a wonderful idea.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank
I
you.
do too. And I hope everybody goes and signs up, and maybe Suzanne and I need to go sign
I
up.
know.
Laura's
Fort
coming.
Lauderdale.
Laura has registered as a participant
That's
in
awesome.
Sleep Plans Live, and I'm
Oh
like,
my
that is very
gosh.
nice of you. She's like, no, I actually want to go, and I'm like,
Yeah, because
okay.
she really needs to get her shit together.
I think she just wants to be away from her kids so she can plan in peace, and I'm providing
Yes,
the venue for that to happen,
Yes.
plus some
that
fun.
is amazing.
I mean,
Yeah,
that is a gift to yourself for
it
sure that
it
you
is.
and you're going into that busy season of life already with some structure around what that first quintile is going to look like for you.
Exactly.
Mhm.
That's why I did it in November and not in January. I could see the logic for doing it in January, and honestly, our weather is better in January than it is in November. But I thought, people want to plan before so you can hit the ground running in the new year.
Yeah.
But we'll
Yeah.
see. Maybe in the future, depending on feedback, the one for the year after might be January. We'll see.
Yeah. Okay. Well, our time has gone way too fast.
I
But
know.
before we jump to our Look, Listen, Learns, tell our listeners where they can find all of this information and find you. And we will put it in our show notes as well.
Yeah, the easiest place is just go to theshoebox.com, THESHU, which are my initials, BOX.com, and you'll find links to the podcasts. Or you can find Best Laid Plans on any podcast platform or Best of Both Worlds with Laura Vanderkam and me on any podcast platform as well.
Awesome.
Do
Okay. We'll
not
put
look
it
for me
all in
on
the show
social media.
notes.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah. I knew I followed you on Instagram. I was like, this is an old picture.
I have an Insta that still exists because I wanted to, if people were searching for me, I wanted them to be able to find my other stuff. And I left my
Right.
old stuff up, but I
Yeah.
think I put like basically an away message. I'm like, I'm not here.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, it's
Yeah,
a
you're
very
not going to get
graceful way of
new
doing it.
stuff here.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if anybody is new to the podcast today, we are so glad you're here. And every week we do a Look, Listen, Learn segment. And it's just a few minutes talking about things we might be reading, watching, discovering new products. Sometimes it's silly, sometimes it's serious. And we hate to put our guests in the hot seat. So, Suzanne, you're going first this week. What are you Look, Listening, Learning?
Let's see. So I am looking at Barry, Bill Hader. Do you watch this show?
I
Oh
love
my
Barry.
gosh. He's okay. So I fell in love with him as Stefan on SNL, and he's just amazing on anything on SNL. And the fact that he has the range to go from that to this killer for hire, just this
Right.
sociopath murderer is just crazy. And then, oh
He's
gosh,
so good, you kind of forget he's a murderer.
I know, and you really pull for him.
Yeah.
But and they also, I know your favorite, the Fonz is on there, of course. Henry
Yes.
Winkler is amazing. And then this, I don't know the actor's name who plays NoHo Hank, my
I just can't get
favorite.
enough. So
Oh my gosh,
incredible.
they're all just such talented actors. I think
Yeah,
this is the final season, right? Am I making that up? Final season. It's
it is.
so dark and it's so like the last episode. I don't think I exhaled. The whole episode is very
I'm not caught
intense.
up, so I
Yeah,
haven't seen it
but
yet.
it's back. It's back. The season just started last week, a couple weeks ago. So yeah, watching that. I am listening to. I've got two books, and I'm going to pull the KJ mantra and not like speak too much of them because I did not like them so much.
Yep.
But Burnham Wood is a very
I've never
interesting
heard of it.
concept, but super wackadoo ending. But I can't explain why it's wackadoo, or else I'm just going to ruin everything. And then I
Okay.
also just listened to a book called Bunny, which I do not even know. Eventually, I had to start listening to it at like 1.5 speed because I'm like, I don't think it's going to get better. I think here's the thing, it's so, like, bizarre and conceptual that I was thinking like, "Oh, this is a dumb book. How is this lady so smart? And she, like, is a teacher somewhere fancy." But I think if I would have been listening to Fight Club, like, reading Fight Club or one of these movies or whatever, I think would just be really bizarre if you're like, I don't get it. It's weird." And it's
Mhm.
kind of that. It's very dark, kinda Mean Girls. What's
Hmm.
the one where all the girls were like Heathers?
Oh, yeah.
Kinda Heathers, a little Witches of Eastwick, but not the humor
Okay.
part. Um, it's just it's about a bunch of it's like group of 5 women who are in an MFA writing program at a school, which I'm guessing is meant to be Brown because that's where the author did her MFA, and they keep on
Uh-huh.
talking about New England. But it's a group of 4 of these bunnies who are like the cool girls and then the one who's the outcast. And it just starts like, "Oh, this is interesting, these dynamics or whatever," and then it just gets crazy off the rails nuts like I can't even again, I can't even
I'm
explain it, but
curious. Like, I don't wanna I might go to the library and get that.
I don't know. You can't read at 1.5 speed that way. I guess you can just skip
True.
pages.
I can just yeah.
But it's the book for my fancy book club. So I'm very curious to I went and read on Amazon because it's like, is it just me? Because this is like what the fourth book that I'm like, I don't know, I don't like this book. And I'm thinking maybe I just have low class reading habits. I don't know. I
No, but
think
you like what you like, and you should not be required to like something just because everyone says it's amazing, and
yeah.
I occasionally will pick up something that's won a big award and think, "Nope," because
Yeah.
a lot of times those books are just on a different level, and I'm not looking for that.
Yeah.
I'm looking for an escape that is simpler.
All the important people, quote unquote important people, have said this genius in a work of art and fabulous. So I don't think I'm gonna like tank her sales by saying that it was not my favorite read. So that's it with the bunnies and the Burnham Wood. And the other thing, I'm finally listening to Selena Gomez instead of Taylor Swift because
Oh,
everybody's
big switcheroo.
done with Tay Tay around here besides me. So I'm mixing it up. They're her
Awesome.
best friend. That's I just if I can't listen to Taylor, I'm gonna listen to her best friend.
That's right.
So
That's why I was joking.
that's
I know, I'll never
me.
finish. All right,
What
that's
about
you. What
what
about you,
about you,
Sarah?
Sarah?
Oh, I'm next. I thought maybe you were next. Okay, so books, I am never like the first one to read something, but I love Curtis Sittenfeld. And when I saw she had a new book coming out, she's the one who wrote Prep, she wrote Rodham. I've like every single
Yeah.
book she's put
Oh
out.
yeah.
I went on the library hold list and I was like, I'm gonna be first because I put it like before the book came out and it worked. Like I didn't sit on any list. So I already read it. It
Amazing.
was so good. I love her work. And it's about basically a writer on like a fictional version of Saturday Night Live. It's called something else. But
Yeah.
it also was the second book I have read in a row with the plot line of like normal looking woman seduces very hot star, which is weird because like
Mm,
2 books in a row. But
yeah.
it's okay. This one was my favorite one, and I thought it was just so well done, and the characters were charming, and I loved it. So that would be my look, I guess. I can give you a TV show too. I've been loving
Yes.
Bad Sisters. I mean, that might not be news to people, but that's
So
so awesome. I'm not
good.
done, so like I won't spoil
Okay.
anything, and you
Mm.
cannot spoil anything. But
Okay,
I
we'll
was
keep our
sick.
mouths
I
shut.
had strep. I caught strep from the kids, which I feel like sounds like a very
Oh.
child illness. But
I watched it for COVID.
yes,
It
I
must
just
be a
lie
sick
down and
binge.
like let. It was so soothing and like engaging. It was perfect. And then, wow, learn is a little tougher. I guess learning a lot about running. Even though I knew a lot about running, I have a coach, which is like very indulgent because I'm not like anywhere in a level that would need a coach. It's just
No,
totally for
everybody needs
fun.
a coach. That's our
Everybody needs a
mantra.
coach. And I'm
Everybody
in a
needs a
running
coach.
group with people who are like faster than me. So I'm always learning new tips and tricks from them. And it's just fun to just like immerse in that world, just like I would immerse in the world of planners and pens. And like, it's just another thing to get mildly obsessed with. And I think it's very fun.
Oh,
Oh, that's such a
yeah, I
great.
love it.
I have a couple friends who they run kind of as a group with a
Mhm.
coach. So, but they all do that. And I think my running's not to that point, but maybe I could get to that point if I had a coach tell me how to do it right. And maybe if I didn't try to do 10Ks after not running for 3 months.
I don't think many coaches would recommend that particular training strategy, but you
No.
made it work.
No.
You made it work.
I
You survived anyway.
we'll put work in quotes.
I think it's so admirable that you're in a group where everybody's faster than you are, because a lot of people could join that and just be like, I don't fit here.
Mhm.
Not
But
everybody is. Actually, that's why it's not scary. Like, there's other people
Yeah,
that are very similar.
good.
But like the person who started the group is so much faster than I will ever
And
be,
it's
and
a
that's
great way to
cool. I love
learn.
it.
Yeah, such a great way to learn
Yes.
from somebody who's doing things a little differently.
Yes.
Yes, or who has natural talent that I don't possess.
Yeah, some people just are born to run.
Yeah, so they're
Yeah.
born with it. It's not Maybelline.
Yeah. Yeah.
What about you,
Yeah.
Missy?
Let's see. I just watched the second season of Single Drunk Female, which
Uh-huh.
the first season was a look, listen, learn some time ago. I really, really love that show. And it got me to watch. I didn't watch the whole thing, but I went and pulled up The Breakfast Club because Ali Sheedy is the mom in Single Drunk Female. And then Molly Ringwald is a character in the second season. And so I was like, I just kind of want to go watch the Breakfast Club again. So I had one day that was all Ali Sheedy, Molly Ringwald. It was really fun.
Oh, fun.
Um, and the Breakfast Club is it's I hadn't watched it in years. It's so different than what I remembered of it. Like, I
Yeah.
recommend going to watch it again. I can't decide if I think it holds up, but I think it does. It may be one of the John Hughes movies that holds up the best. Still a lot of stereotypes and stuff that we would not deal with today, but it's still like what they're talking about and what these kids are thinking about is that kind of stuff never ends. Family relationships and school and life, and that never changes.
Yeah. I'm still
So,
mad that they made over Ali Sheedy, though.
oh yeah. So let's see. Well, I have two learns actually. One is silly and one's a little more serious. But I learned about the pink stuff, which Suzanne and I have a group of friends, and our friend Leanne brought up that she was cleaning her Dutch oven with it, and I didn't know you could use it on pots. So I had the pink stuff, had never used it.
Can you explain what the pink stuff is for people that are
So,
not on our text thread?
yeah, yeah. So it's a cleaner, and it comes in a little tub, a pink tub, and it's called the pink stuff, and it's supposed to be so versatile and clean all these things. So I bought it, I don't know, probably 3 to 6 months ago. I can't remember when I bought it. And I thought, well, I'm just going to clean all these things. And I had never opened the little tub of cleaner. But then then Leanne mentioned that she used it to clean a pot. And I'm like, I didn't even know it did that, which if you read on the side, that's one of the things it says it's best for is cleaning pots and pans. So we have our Lodge, like enameled Dutch oven was a little sad looking. So I went after it the other night and it felt so good. So go buy the pink stuff. You can get it on Amazon and I'm sure many other places too. But it's great and it doesn't smell bad and it doesn't feel toxic. And it's just, I don't know what it is. I have no idea what it is, but it was great. And then my other learn is I am trying to learn how to do a good pitch for a book. I want to enter a contest that's coming up soon and I have to get my pitch down to 250 words. And yeah, I'm
Are you
learning a
doing
lot.
Pitch Wars? Is that what it's called?
It's not Pitch Wars, it's with
Okay.
Tall Poppy Writers, but they're doing a pitch contest. It's open until May 9th. I'll post the link to it. And 250 words seems like plenty, and yet it is not enough. Like learning to boil everything down has been hard.
It'll be so good, though.
Oh gosh, I don't know. Hold me while I do this.
You can do it. Hey, if I can finish a book proposal in 5 years, you can do this.
Yeah, doing it 5 May 9th. No, in 5 years. May 9th is what I've got.
Oh my goodness.
There you go. All right.
So much fun. Oh my gosh. I need to listen to this episode like 5 more times. And And take all the notes. Well, we'll have all the notes in the show notes for anybody who missed
Yes.
anything as far as
I
the different
scribbled so many
planners and
notes while we were
papers and
listening.
pens and all the things. Because, yeah, you've tried them all.
Well, I haven't tried them all. There are so many. There's like
There are so
infinity
many.
planners out there. I mean, you even named one I didn't know. Like people, you must know them all. Like, no, there's like hundreds, literally, of
There
planner
are,
brands. But
yes.
I know a lot of them, and it's so fun. So thank you so much for having me. This was great.
Oh, well, thank you
Well,
so much for
so fun
joining
talking
us.
with you.
Yes, I'm so excited. And I'll share my one that I designed. And then Missy, even though it didn't work for you, yeah, let's definitely share yours so people, because who knows, it might be
Yeah.
the one that fits someone else's needs perfectly.
Right?
So,
And if you don't have to carry your stuff around with you, it's perfect.
yes.
So some people
If
don't.
if you would just remain stationary at your desk 24 hours a day.
Yeah. Or if
this
you're a
is for
lot
you.
stronger than I am. Maybe I'm just a weenie.
Oh, well, thank you again. Really appreciate it. And so glad to finally meet you.
Have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for joining us for the Mom and ... podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show today. And if you know someone else who could benefit from today's episode, be sure to share it with them. Also, please subscribe and rate us wherever you listen to podcasts. You can find links to all the things we discussed today in the show notes over at our website, momandpodcast.com, with the AND spelled out. In between shows, you can find us at the socials, including our private Mom and Community Facebook group. You can find links to the group, all of our socials, and our questions and comments section over at our website, momandpodcast.com. Thank you so much for your support. We appreciate you so much. Now go out there and make your ellipses count.